Hi, my name is Jennifer Lopez, and today I wanted to talk a little bit about developing a critical consciousness of undocumented Latino students. And to get us started, I want to tell you a little bit about Maria. Maria was once my student and an honors scholar at the local community college. And recently, she was able to transfer to the local four-year university to complete her degree in elementary education. But Maria is also one of the 11.5 million illegal immigrants currently living in the United States. And in 2015, Maria was also one of the estimated 1.8 million undocumented youth aged 18 years or younger. Furthermore, in the United States, approximately 65,000 undocumented high school students graduate each year. Past failed attempts on the part of Congress to develop and enact comprehensive federal immigration reform has condemned these undocumented youth to uncertain futures. Many of the 1.8 million undocumented youth were brought to the United States at a very young age and not of their own accord, but rather as a result of their parents' decisions to immigrate. In 2012, not wanting to punish these undocumented youth for their parents' actions and hoping to provide more opportunities to fulfill their potential and to contribute to a nation that has been more of a home to them than their birth nation, President Obama enacted his Deferred Action for Childhood Arrivals. So, in order to be eligible for DACA, you have to come to the United States before your 16th birthday, have lived continuously in the United States since June 15th of 2007, were present in the United States illegally on June 15th, 2012, are at least 15 years old at the time that you apply for DACA, have graduated or obtained a certificate of completion from high school, obtained your GED, be honorably discharged from the U.S. Coast Guard or the U.S. Armed Forces, or be in school on the date you submit your DACA application. You must not have also been convicted of a felony offense, nor been convicted of a significant misdemeanor offense or 3 or more minor misdemeanor offenses. You must also not pose a threat to national security or public safety, including any gang affiliation. Maria, as one of the 800,000 plus current DACA recipients, has been granted temporary immunity from deportation and can enroll in the local community college and four-year university to work towards her degree. Sadly, the Trump administration officially rescinded DACA in March of 2018. However, previous court orders by federal judges that DACA remain in place allow current recipients to continue to renew their applications. Yet no new applications are currently being accepted. The fate of the DACA program remains in limbo as the Trump administration's move to roll back DACA faces substantial legal challenges. Maria, as well as the other 800,000 current DACA recipients, along with the million undocumented youth who are eligible for DACA, and the 65,000 undocumented high school students who will graduate this year, live in a constant state of fear and uncertainty. These immigrants without papers are the invisible class, hiding in plain sight, here but not here. Furthermore, the social positioning of undocumented Latinos is largely invisible in our school's curriculum. Although current demographics show that 1 in every 4 children are Latino, and that by the year 2050, 2 of every 5 children will be Latina, students are still not being asked to reflect critically about how undocumented Latino youth are being socially constructed, including by whom and for what purpose. I observed this lack of critical consciousness towards undocumented Latino youth when I tried to discuss immigration policies and issues such as DACA in my college classes. To my dismay, the vast majority of my students and colleagues have little to no knowledge of these topics. What is needed is a culturally relevant curriculum and teaching methodology for undocumented Latinos in order to develop a critical consciousness within our students and our community so that we can empower them to create a more democratic society and achieve social justice through personal, social, political, and economic transformation. A culturally relevant curriculum for undocumented Latino youth is fundamental because students in the community cannot develop a critical consciousness towards undocumented Latinos until A, they're able to develop an awareness and an understanding of the oppressive obstacles limiting Latino immigrants from reaching their full potential, B, comprehend the potential loss and harm to the entire society if these obstacles are not removed or overcome, and C, recognize that the current narrative is oppressive and exclusive and work to offer a counter narrative that is more inclusive and just. Peter Roos, an attorney for the families in Plyer versus the Department of Education, asserts most of the undocumented youth will remain in the country. And if you educate these children, they are more likely to be productive members of society and less of a drain. In fact, the U.S. Supreme Court granted illegal immigrant children access to K-12 public education in Plyer versus the Department of Education in 1982 on the basis that denial of education would create a lifetime of hardship and a permanent underclass of individuals. Yet 30 years later, Kopp argues that not having a college degree in today's society will lead to the same fate for many of these undocumented youth. Rincon describes a system that's designed to price the illegal population out of higher education, thus keeping them undocumented and uneducated, and to maintain that cheap labor workforce on which our economy and lifestyles have become addicted, and provide convenient scapegoats for our political and social issues. DACA permits any state wishing to offer in-state tuition to illegal immigrants the authority to do so through state legislation. And in 2013, the National Conference of State Legislatures reported that 16 states passed legislation allowing them to pay in-state tuition. However, in South Carolina, DACA students are not eligible for financial or state financial aid and must pay out-of-state or international tuition. Even more worrisome, many institutions of higher education in South Carolina use the status of parents or guardians to determine the residency of students. Thus, many Hispanic students who are U.S. citizens, born and raised in South Carolina, are denied state scholarships and in-state tuition because of their parents' illegal status. Not surprisingly, undocumented students like Victor are flocking to states offering in-state tuition. This contributes to the decline in diversity in states like South Carolina and is a huge loss of talent, future professionals, and skilled workers. Ironically, while known as the invisible class, undocumented Latinos are conveniently made hyper-visible by the dominant narrative when convenient to marginalize and vilify them. This perpetuates the constructed national identity of us versus them, even though many undocumented youth have lived the majority of their lives in the United States. Nevertheless, Congress and the American public are hesitant to provide amnesty or facilitate a pathway to citizenship for these children based on the irrational fears of encouraged mass migration to the United States, erosion of the dominant Eurocentric national identity, culture, and language if immigrants do not properly assimilate, increased economic burden on taxpayers, and exposure of threats to national security. For these reasons, politicians and many American citizens continue to sanction immigration policies that break up families through deportations and deny educational opportunities to children who, by no fault of their own, find themselves a part of our society. A culturally relevant curriculum can give undocumented youth a voice and help educate others in society so that they may work together to change the dominant discourse. Yet Rincon warns that these arguments sometimes focus solely on investment, profit, or redemption of the outsider, and that we as educators must not forget that the heart of the issue is purely one of equality, equity, and civil rights, namely a human issue. It's a human issue that requires a human pedagogy. Bearing that in mind, future research and implications to consider are: how have immigrants internalized these feelings of having no power and being invisible? What are the effects of internalizing these deficit views? And how are immigrants working to overcome or remove these obstacles placed in front of them by society? I hope you've enjoyed my discussion today, and will consider including a more culturally relevant curriculum in your classroom that will focus on Latinos, and particularly the undocumented Latinos that may be in your school.